A lot of players, including myself when I was playing and growing up, are fearful, right? We're afraid to do certain things on the court because of what might happen, what other people think, what the coaches think. And these fears hold us back from reaching our fullest potential. And when we face our fears, a lot of times it can be very uncomfortable, right? It can cause stress, it can cause anxiety, it can cause anxiousness, right? But when we choose to run away from those fears, the fear will only grow. Those feelings will only grow. So, one thing that Kobe talks about is what fear really is. And he said that fear is your imagination. It's situations most of the time that we are making up in our head, that we are hyping up, right? So if we're fearful of something, let's say maybe before a game happens, you're playing a certain team and you look on the other side, these dudes are, dunking everything. They're super tall. They're doing things that may intimidate you, right? Or you may think that these dudes are very good. And I've been in many situations in my career where I thought dudes were better than they really were, or weren't as good as I thought they were. Come to find out when the game finally tips off, I'm holding my own. I'm able to compete with them. But before the game, I was hyping up the situation in my head, saying these dudes are ranked. This team is one of the best teams in the country, whatever the case may be. But I was doubting my own abilities and putting this fear into my head. When we stepped on the court, I was able to hang with them, right? But sometimes it would hold me back. I would stay in the shell because I felt like I couldn't or I wouldn't be able to hang with these guys or play up to their level. And I know a lot of athletes, they think of the same things. They have the same things. And what we have to understand is that fear is our imagination. It's situations that haven't even happened yet, or haven't happened, or won't happen. But in our head, we are making these things seem, bigger or more scary than they really are. So, another thing that Kobe talks about is when we are dealing with fear, we're fearful of something, something that we can do is break it down and get to the root of it. Ask ourselves, okay, if you have a fear of, driving and finishing in traffic, you can say, okay, what's the worst thing that can happen right now? Okay, maybe you miss a layup. All right, maybe you get your shot blocked. Okay, and let's really break those things down. If we miss a layup, okay, what's the worst thing that can happen? I miss a layup. Am I going to miss more layups throughout my career? Yes, I am. Okay, so is that really that big of a deal? No. Okay, I get my shot blocked. I can say the same exact thing. I'm going to get my shot blocked, a lot more throughout my career. Okay, it's nothing that I've never faced or has never happened to me. And also, too, I can also think, okay, where's the ball going to go if we do get my shot blocked? All right, most likely going to go out of bounds. Whose ball is it going to be? Most of the time it's going to be our ball, right? So when we really break our fears down, we come to realize that they aren't really that big of a deal, right? These things aren't going to affect us 10, 20, 30 years down the line, right? It's just going to be a memory. And the only person that's going to remember it is you, right? No one is going to remember you missing that layup your sophomore year of high school, first game of the season. No one's going to remember you missing that layup beside yourself, right? No one's going to care about it. And we have to understand that these things that we are afraid of aren't that big of a deal. It's not life altering, right? These things are things that no one besides ourselves are going to remember. So we need to, when we're facing these fears, when we're dealing with these fears, we have to get to the root. What's the worst thing that can happen? When you really break those fears down, you're going to come to realize that they're not that scary and nothing really, really bad can actually happen, right? Obviously, there could be other fears, as in jumping out of a freaking plane, right? Obviously, there's serious life-threatening possibilities, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about things that are on the court. So I want you to look at your fears and break them down, right? It's okay to feel fear. It's not a bad thing. Us feeling fear is human nature. And when we say, oh, that's not a good thing, when we say fear is not a good thing, those emotions and those feelings of stress, anxiety, those things will only grow, right? And we allow that fear to consume us, and things only get worse, right? Those emotions only amplify, right? They only grow. So, you can also tell yourself it's okay to feel fear, right? But something that's not okay to do is to let that fear, not do anything to get over that fear, or not necessarily get over, but not do anything to, handle that fear, right? Only way that we are going to deal with this fear a little bit better each time is by actually going out and doing it, right? So first step is we break it down, okay? Find your fear. Whatever fear you're going through right now, I want you to just write them down. Write down your few fears on the cord that you have, okay? Next is break them down, right? Break down those fears. Get a notepad, write them down, and I want you to break them down. Now you should have come to realize that these things aren't that big of a deal. They're not going to tremendously affect us, right? And now when you have broken them down, you write down those things, you should also realize too that if we aren't comfortable with facing these fears, we are going to be limited as a player, right? These fears will remain our fears forever, and it's going to hold back our growth. It's going to hold back our progress. If we want to continue to develop, we have to be comfortable facing these things. And if we run away from them every single time we face them, they're only going to remain our fears. So face them, right? Break them down. Break them down. Then when you break them down, after you come to realize that nothing's that bad after all, I want you to go out and face them. Write down, okay, when am I going to attack this? Today in practice, I'm going to attack this fear. Today in my workout, okay? And I know most of the times when we're dealing with fear, it has to do like in a live situation. So maybe it's probably going to have to be in practice, right? Maybe you said, okay, I'm going to just go to open run, and I'm going to work on this thing, right? Then maybe you could say, all right, next step is I got to do it in the game. The more that you do these things, the more that you're going to be comfortable with it, right? The first time that you attack this fear might not go well, and we have to understand that, and we have to kind of go into this knowing that it might not go well, right? We might not make that shot. We might not be able to make that play, and that's fine. Like I said, the more that we go at it, the more that we're going to get comfortable, and the more that we're going to succeed at these things. If we go in thinking that, okay, I broke this thing down, and I came to it as not that big of a deal, but then you go and attack it and it doesn't go the way that you think it's going to go, we can't just get discouraged, right? If we get discouraged and we're just like, no, it's not worth it, then those fears are only going to remain our fears forever. We have to go in knowing that it's going to take time. It could take you weeks, it could take you months, it could take you a year to kind of get over this thing. There's no, solidified timeline of when this is going to work out for you or when things are going to get better for you. You just have to go throughout it and understand that over time, that fear, the power of that fear will lessen. It's not going to be as powerful, right? The more that we attack these things, the fear or that feeling that we get will drop, and it's not going to be as big or as impactful as it was in the past. So break down your fears, and then first thing we must do is attack them. And our first thing is breaking down, second thing is attack them, third thing is continue to attack them day in and day out, right? Set a schedule, okay? Monday, I'm going to do it in practice. Tuesday, I'm going to go to open gym, I'm going to do it. Thursday, I'm going to do it in our game, okay? And set guidelines of when you're going to do it and hold yourself accountable to it, okay? If you're doing these things and you're not following through, then these things, again, are only going to grow, right? So set a deadline, or set a timeline and schedule for yourself on when you're going to do these things and hold yourself to it, right? So we have to understand that fear is our imagination, right? These situations are situations that we are hyping up in our head, and we're picturing an outcome that isn't even real, right? So that's one thing, is fear is your imagination. Number two is we got to break these things down. And then number three is we got to face them. All right, so that's what you should be doing every single time that you are heading into a fear, right? Understand that's your imagination, break it down, and then we got to attack it.